All right, Netflix's Hillbilly Elegy just premiered, and according to our next guest, Emily Jashinsky, it lacks the sense of community essential to J.D. Vance's memoir, writes culture editor at the Federalist, Emily Jashinsky herself. The film, however, does ask viewers to consider the plight of working-class people in the throes of addiction and civic decay, and Emily is here to discuss the adaptation and Netflix's missed opportunities, both on the cultural commentary, but also, I think, the reaction. Emily, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Sagar.
So tell me a little bit about your reaction to the film. There were a lot of hot takes flying around. My favorite review was, the problem with Hillbilly Elegy is not the movie, but it's J.D. Vance itself. You have your own kind of critique of the film. What do you make of it?
Well, yeah, prayers up for J.D. Vance, because there are hot takes. Like, he's been the subject of hot takes for half a decade now because of this book. Right, yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, the thing that must be addressed is it's baffling how Netflix took a great budget, a great director, and two incredible actresses and made what looks like a Lifetime movie. And that's just unfortunate because they had so much talent, and the book does tell such a rich story. But what I think the Netflix adaptation misses is, again, like you already mentioned, that sense of community, that sense of place, but the book itself is an analysis, right? Like, it's very like Putnam-esque. It has sort of Charles Murray type data in it, where he's looking at, the decline of community, the decline of these civic institutions, and that's all completely gone from the movie. The movie really just tells the story of J.D. Vance, and the left is applying some of the same critiques it applied to the memoir itself to the movie, which is that it just is it's too focused on bootstraps conservatism, right? Like, you can escape poverty. This cycle ends with you because you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And when it's just one person's story, and that's actually what he did, that's actually what J.D. Vance did, that critique just completely misses the mark. But I actually think it's unfortunate that Netflix only focused on his story without folding in the story of the broader community. And that's really what this misses. Yeah,
I think that's a very good point, which is that, look, I mean, J.D.'s he's a friend, and he's been on the show. He would be the first to tell you, like, the bootstrap stuff doesn't always work. His whole book is about systems and analysis and about what exactly, he tries to use his life as a prism through which people, I think, in the upper classes can at least understand the rest of Americans. I actually think the left, not leftists, but liberals' core critique of the movie, of the book, and others that just humanizes poor white people, which apparently is a crime in American society. I mean, but to your point, which is that, is it even possible, really, to do that within a film? I almost thought, like, maybe when you were talking, it occurred to me, maybe it would have been better as a documentary, not just about Vance, but just like using and talking with some of the experts that he cites within the book and more to tell a more holistic story.
Yeah, I think it would have been better as a documentary, but at the same time, as you mentioned, J.D. Vance really can't win with the left, which is ironic because J.D. Vance himself, as you mentioned, J.D. Vance is like one of these new, like, Trump-era thinkers who's saying maybe we do need to provide some more government assistance, and we need to do it creatively and innovatively, but we can't keep doing what we're doing now. So it's like completely ironic, but there are some critiques that, Hillbilly Elegy is basically poverty porn, and it's poverty porn from somebody who's done this and been very successful. And it's a slanted view because there are a lot of people who just simply can't escape the cycle no matter what they do. But at the same time, people like me are constantly begging Hollywood and people or platforms like Netflix to just like consider the plight and to think about it and to learn about it. And so I hope that that's good. I hope that this, like, at least, and it was funny because I remember JD going on like Morning Joe, when the book came out. And I remember some of those sort of like neoliberal centrists getting really excited and being very proud to say that they had read Hillbilly Elegy and had these beautiful things to say about it. And they were enlightened by it. But at the same time, like, if people can actually say, like, this is a problem, addiction and divorce and civic decay, the things that are ravaging some of these communities, are in fact ravaging some of these communities, that's good. So I hope the movie does some good in that respect.
I think that's that's right as well, which is, I mean, it's funny because I think that it was okay to like Hillbilly Elegy until Trump got elected, and then it was not okay. That's kind of it was one of those things where it's like, oh, we understand why these people might vote for Trump, but he won't actually win. And then he won, and they're like, oh, God. So now he turns into the enemy. And I guess generally, it's funny, you look at the Rotten Tomatoes thing, right? And look, I know, Rotten Tomatoes, but Ross Douthat actually tweeted this out. It's like a 20% approval from the critics, 82% from the audience, right? I mean, that really is like the two Americas. And so in a way, what you're getting at, and this might be a lesson for Netflix, which is, look, regardless of whether there's a problem or not with the film, is, hey, there are a lot of average, regular people who subscribe to your product and don't necessarily want to watch, I mean, you can't even browse like Hulu or Netflix or whatever without, like some gender, like films made by, X type director. And I'm like, I don't care. I just want to watch something good, right? And maybe it might show them that there is commercial success, like they found from Dave Chappelle's stand-up comedy, not politically correct, still one of their most viewed things of all time, from pursuing these types of projects.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And I think they are slowly learning that. And this could be a good example of it. Usually the higher the gap between the audience score and the critic score in Rotten Tomatoes, the better the movie is. And I said something earlier when we were talking about how it sort of feels like a Lifetime film. And I didn't mean that in a snobby way. I meant that in a way that's like, listen, like, you know me, I love Lifetime.
Yeah,
I love Bravo. I love
the
Kardashians. Yeah. Sagar, by the way, also loves the Kardashians.
Yeah, don't out me on this, all right?
No, but representation is an important thing. It's something the left talks about a lot, but they talk about it a lot through the sort of identity politics prism. But there's something really to be said about good representation in terms of class, which is not something that, like, Roseanne is a good example. The original Roseanne, a great example of that, something very successful in that respect. And I think this is probably going to win a lot of viewers because of that, and because this is a really American story, and people on the left and the right can relate to it. People actually, like, as much as the left denigrates bootstraps-isms, the bootstraps philosophy, that's something a lot of Americans relate to and actually aspire to, even if it's kind of out of reach for them. So I think it tells a story that resonates with Americans, and I do hope that sends a message to the folks over at Netflix. But like we've been saying this entire conversation, J.D. Vance really can't win because the left is insistent that he's, doing something inauthentic and unfair. And so no matter what, I think that's probably why this film itself was diluted a little bit. I think that's why it didn't have that didn't pack the same punch as like Coming Apart or the memoir itself.
I think that's right. All right, Emily, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Sagar.
Good to see you. All right, we'll have more Rising for you after this.